The entire village laughed at her husband. They mocked his old motorcycle, his simple clothes, his quiet lifestyle. To them, he was just a poor repairman who could never become anything important. Even during the biggest village ceremony of the year, wealthy guests insulted him openly while people whispered and laughed behind his back. But the strange thing was, he never defended himself, never argued, never tried to impress anyone. He just sat there calmly beside his wife, like he knew something nobody else did. Then suddenly, everything changed. The host walked onto the stage holding a golden envelope and announced the name of the man who had secretly funded schools, hospitals, scholarships, and development projects across the entire region. The hall fell completely silent when they heard the name, because the poor husband everyone mocked for years was actually the most respected and powerful man in the entire village. In the quiet village of Greenfall, people loved gossip almost as much as they loved celebrations. And that year, the biggest celebration of all was the annual Village Achievement Ceremony, a grand event where successful people from surrounding towns were invited and honored publicly. For the villagers, it was more than entertainment. It was status, recognition, proof that someone had made it in life. The entire village prepared for weeks. Colorful lights were hung across the streets, chairs filled the large community hall, and families dressed in their best clothes, hoping to be seen among important guests. But while most people were excited about the ceremony, one woman dreaded it completely. Her name was Mira Lawson, and the reason for her anxiety sat quietly beside her every evening at their small dinner table. Her husband, Noah Carter. Noah was known throughout Greenfall as the poor husband, not because he was lazy, not because he was rude, but because he lived simply, very simply. He wore ordinary clothes, drove an old motorcycle that barely survived rainy days, and worked long hours doing technical repair jobs nobody in the village considered impressive. While other men chased attention and wealth, Noah preferred silence. He avoided gossip, avoided showing off, avoided explaining himself, and unfortunately, people mistook his quietness for weakness. Mira loved Noah deeply, but loving him didn't protect her from the cruel whispers around the village. "You're too beautiful for a man like him. She could have married someone rich. What kind of future can he even provide?" The comments followed her everywhere. At markets, family gatherings, even church events. At first, Mira ignored them, but over time, the judgment became exhausting. One afternoon, while helping decorate the community hall for the ceremony, several women began gossiping nearby. "I heard wealthy investors are coming this year, successful business owners too." Then one woman laughed quietly. "Well, at least Myra's husband can repair the microphones if something breaks." The group burst into soft laughter. Mira forced a smile, but inside, the words hurt. That evening at home, Noah noticed her silence immediately. "You're thinking too loudly again," he said gently while fixing an old radio on the table. Mira looked at him tiredly. "Do you ever get tired of people mocking you?" Noah smiled faintly without looking up. People usually mock what they don't understand. His calmness frustrated her sometimes, not because it was wrong, but because she wished things affected him less, or perhaps more visibly. "Doesn't it bother you?" she asked softly. Noah finally looked at her. "Mira," he said calmly, "if you spend your life trying to satisfy people who enjoy judging others, you'll never have peace." She wanted to believe him, she really did. But life in Greenfall wasn't easy when everyone measured worth through appearances. A few days later, the village achievement ceremony finally arrived. The community hall looked beautiful. Bright lights glowed warmly across the stage while villagers filled the seats excitedly. Everyone wanted to witness success. Everyone wanted inspiration. Everyone wanted someone to admire. As Mira and Noah entered the hall together, several people immediately noticed them. Whispers spread quickly. "She actually brought him. What's he even doing here? He probably came for free food." Soft laughter followed. Mira lowered her eyes slightly, but Noah remained completely calm. As always, they sat near the back quietly while important guests occupied the front rows. Men in expensive suits, luxury watches, polished shoes, everything the villagers admired. Noah sat among them wearing his simple dark jacket and old watch. And somehow, that contrast made the whispers louder. A wealthy businessman sitting nearby glanced at Noah's motorcycle helmet resting under his chair and smirked. "You rode here on that thing?" he asked mockingly. Noah nodded politely. "It still works." Several people laughed softly. The businessman chuckled. "You know," he said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "tonight is about successful people." More quiet laughter spread around them. Myra's face burned with embarrassment, but Noah simply replied calmly, "Success means different things to different people." The businessman rolled his eyes dismissively, clearly unimpressed. The ceremony began shortly afterward. Music played softly as local leaders gave speeches praising hard work, ambition, and achievement. Villagers applauded loudly whenever wealthy guests were introduced. Every announcement brought excitement. Every successful name brought admiration. Meanwhile, Noah remained quiet beside Mira, watching calmly, listening carefully, almost as if he were waiting for something. Hours passed. Then finally, the host stepped back onto the stage holding a golden envelope, his expression suddenly more serious. "And now," the host announced proudly, "we come to the most important recognition of tonight." The room immediately quieted. Curiosity spread everywhere. "This year's special honor award," the host continued, "goes to an individual whose contributions have transformed lives across multiple communities." People leaned forward eagerly. Despite choosing to remain anonymous for years, the host added, "This individual funded schools, medical programs, village infrastructure, and educational scholarships throughout the region." Shock spread softly through the crowd. Nobody expected this. The host smiled warmly. "And tonight, for the first time publicly, we will reveal his identity." The entire hall erupted with whispers. "Who is it? Must be someone powerful. A billionaire maybe." Mira glanced around curiously. Even Noah now looked toward the stage more attentively. The host slowly opened the envelope, then smiled. "And the recipient of this year's special honor award is..." A pause. The entire hall held its breath. "Mr. Noah Carter." Silence. Complete silence. Mira froze instantly. The businessman beside them stopped breathing mid-laugh. And the entire village turned toward the back row. Toward the man they had mocked all evening. Because suddenly, the poor husband nobody respected, was the most important man in the entire hall. The hall remained frozen in silence. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke, because the name they had just heard didn't make sense. Mr. Noah Carter. The words echoed again and again inside people's minds. The same Noah, the quiet repairman, the man with the old motorcycle, the husband everyone mocked. Impossible. Mira felt her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Slowly, she turned toward Noah beside her. But Noah wasn't shocked. He wasn't confused. He simply sat there calmly, as if he already knew this moment would come. The wealthy businessman near them stared in disbelief. "No, this has to be a mistake." Several others whispered the same thing. "There's no way, him, the poor guy from Greenfall." But on stage, the host smiled warmly and continued speaking. "For years, Mr. Noah Carter chose to donate anonymously," he explained. "He personally funded educational programs, repaired schools, built water systems, and supported struggling families across multiple villages." The crowd remained speechless. Myra's eyes widened slowly, because suddenly, memories started connecting inside her mind. The nights Noah came home late, the mysterious phone calls he always avoided discussing, the weekends he disappeared, saying only, "I'm helping someone." She remembered asking him once why he worked so much if they still lived simply, and his answer now echoed painfully in her ears. "Not all wealth is meant to be displayed," the host continued proudly. "Even after building a highly successful engineering company in the city years ago, Mr. Carter refused public recognition. Instead, he returned quietly to serve communities in need." Gasps spread across the hall. Engineering company, successful. The villagers looked at Noah differently now, not with pity, not with mockery, but shock, pure shock. Mira could barely process it all, because the man sitting beside her was suddenly a complete mystery. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered emotionally. Noah looked at her gently. "I never hid who I was," he replied calmly. Mira opened her mouth, then stopped, because deep down, she realized he was right. He never bragged, never lied, never pretended. People simply assumed he had nothing because he chose simplicity. The host smiled toward the back row. "Mr. Carter," he announced warmly, "please join us on stage." Every eye in the hall followed Noah as he slowly stood. And suddenly, the entire atmosphere changed. The same people who mocked him earlier now moved aside respectfully. Some avoided eye contact completely. Others looked ashamed. The businessman who laughed at Noah's motorcycle earlier quickly adjusted his posture nervously, as if pretending he had shown respect all along. Mira watched Noah walk toward the stage calmly. No arrogance, no revenge, no prideful expression, just quiet dignity. And somehow, that made the moment even more powerful. As Noah stepped onto the stage, the audience slowly began clapping. At first uncertainly, then louder, and louder, until the entire hall erupted into applause. The villagers who once whispered about him, now stood to honor him. Mira felt tears forming in her eyes, not because Noah was secretly successful, but because she suddenly understood the depth of the man she married. Noah accepted the award quietly while flashes from cameras lit the stage. The host smiled proudly beside him. "Mr. Carter," he said, "people throughout this region call you a hero. Why remain anonymous for so many years?" The room became silent again. Everyone waited for his answer. Noah looked across the hall carefully, his eyes briefly meeting Myra's. Then he spoke calmly into the microphone. "Because kindness loses meaning when it's done for attention." The room fell completely still. "I never wanted applause," he continued quietly. "I only wanted to help where I could." Several villagers lowered their eyes in shame, because many of them suddenly realized, they spent years judging a man whose heart was greater than anyone they admired publicly. Noah looked toward the audience again. "People often mistake simplicity for failure," he said. The words landed heavily across the hall, especially on those who mocked him most. "But some people choose quiet lives not because they lack success." A pause. "But because peace matters more than proving anything." Mira felt those words deeply, because now she understood something painful. The entire village spent years measuring Noah by appearances. Old clothes, simple living, silence. But beneath all of it, he carried strength, intelligence, generosity, and success far beyond anything they imagined. The wealthy businessman who mocked him earlier suddenly stood up awkwardly. I didn't realize." Noah gently interrupted him. "It's all right." And somehow, that kindness made the man look even smaller. The applause returned again, even stronger this time, but Noah remained humble through all of it. As he stepped away from the microphone, the host added one final statement. "And next month, Mr. Carter will officially lead the largest development project Greenfall has ever seen." The hall erupted again. More shock, more excitement, because now everyone understood. The man they treated like he was nobody, had the power to transform the future of the entire village. And suddenly, the villagers weren't laughing anymore. They were wishing they had treated him differently from the very beginning. Meanwhile, Mira sat quietly in her seat, tears in her eyes as she watched Noah standing proudly under the stage lights. And for the first time in years, she realized something beautiful. True greatness doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it sits quietly beside you while the world is too blind to notice. The applause inside the community hall seemed endless. People who once ignored Noah were now standing proudly, clapping louder than anyone else. But Noah himself remained unchanged, calm, humble, quiet, as if none of the attention mattered to him at all. Mira watched him carefully from her seat, and suddenly, she saw him differently than ever before. Not because of the award, not because of the success, but because she finally understood the depth of his character. Most people would have used that moment for revenge, to embarrass those who mocked them, to prove everyone wrong. But Noah didn't, and that spoke louder than the award itself. As the ceremony continued, villagers began whispering for completely different reasons now. "I can't believe we judged him so badly. All those years, he helped people secretly while we laughed at him." Some looked genuinely ashamed, others looked uncomfortable, especially the people who insulted him publicly. The wealthy businessman who mocked Noah earlier sat silently now, unable to even lift his eyes toward the stage. Because moments before, he believed success belonged only to people who looked wealthy. Now he realized how wrong he had been. The host eventually invited Noah to remain on stage for a final interview before the ceremony ended. "Mr. Carter," the host said warmly, "many people here want to know something." Noah nodded politely. "Why continue living such a simple life?" the host asked, "when you clearly have the ability to live very differently." The room became silent again. Even Mira leaned forward slightly, because she wanted to hear the answer too. Noah smiled faintly, then spoke calmly into the microphone. "When I was younger," he said, "I believed success meant becoming someone people admired." The audience listened carefully. "But over time," he continued, "I realized admiration fades quickly." A pause. "Character doesn't." The words settled deeply across the hall. "I've met wealthy people who feel empty," Noah said. "And I've met poor families who carry more love and dignity than money could ever buy." Several villagers lowered their eyes quietly, because suddenly, the entire ceremony no longer felt like a celebration of success. It felt like a lesson. Noah continued, so I stopped trying to impress people. His voice remained calm and sincere, and started focusing on becoming someone useful instead. Mira felt tears sliding down her face now, because every cruel comment she heard over the years suddenly felt meaningless. Noah was never weak, never unsuccessful, never less than. He simply valued different things than the rest of the village. The host smiled emotionally. That may be the most powerful thing said on this stage tonight. The audience applauded again, but this applause felt different. More genuine, more emotional. After the ceremony ended, people crowded around Noah immediately. The same villagers who once avoided him now desperately wanted conversations, handshakes, and photos. But Noah treated everyone kindly, even those who hurt him. That shocked Mira the most, because despite everything, he carried no bitterness. As the hall slowly emptied later that night, Mira finally approached him quietly near the stage. For a moment, neither spoke. The lights around the hall had dimmed softly, leaving the room peaceful and quiet after hours of noise. "You should have told me," Mira whispered emotionally. Noah looked at her gently. Would it have changed anything? The question caught her completely off guard. She thought carefully before answering, then slowly shook her head. "No," she admitted honestly. "Because I already loved you before tonight." For the first time that evening, Noah's calm smile became warmer, more personal, more vulnerable. Mira stepped closer. "But I do feel guilty," she confessed softly. "For all the moments I let their words affect me." Noah reached for her hand gently. "Mira," he said quietly, "people fear what they don't understand." She looked up at him. "But how did you stay so calm through all of it?" Noah glanced toward the empty stage thoughtfully, then answered, "Because I learned something a long time ago." "What?" "If you know your value," he said softly, "you stop needing other people to confirm it." The words touched her deeply, because suddenly she realized, that was Noah's true strength all along. Not money, not influence, not hidden success, peace within himself. Outside the hall, villagers still talked excitedly about Noah's shocking identity. Some were embarrassed, some inspired, some regretful, but all of them had learned something unforgettable that night. The man they laughed at for years was the same man quietly helping them all along. As Mira and Noah walked home together beneath the cool night sky, his old motorcycle still parked outside exactly where he left it, Mira suddenly laughed softly through her tears. "What?" Noah asked with a smile. She shook her head. "All these years, and you still ride that terrible motorcycle." Noah chuckled quietly. "It still works." Both of them laughed together this time. And somehow, that small moment felt richer than anything else in the world. Because true greatness isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear expensive suits or demand attention. Sometimes, it wears simple clothes, lives quietly, and carries a heart bigger than anyone realizes. And sometimes, the person the world respects the least turns out to be the person worth respecting the most.